It is cold in your room. You get up, walk 4 steps, and press a button. Behind a wall, a machine starts burning gas so that you do not have to think about the weather. Then you go back to bed. That was a complete survival strategy, and it took you about 9 seconds. For most of the last 100,000 years, that button did not exist. The planet was running an ice age instead. And almost everything you are picturing right now is wrong. It was not a white world of ice. The ice sheet sat on Canada and Scandinavia, 3 kilometers thick, and then they stopped. So much water was locked up in them that the sea fell by 120 meters. You could walk from France to England and from Siberia to Alaska. South of the ice from Spain to the Pacific was open grassland. Cold, dry, windy, and completely full of animals. Mammoth, horse, bison, reindeer, in numbers no living person has ever seen. Scientists call it the mammoth steppe, and it was the largest ecosystem on Earth. Now the second correction, and this one matters more. The thing that killed people out there was not the cold. Cold by itself is survivable. The killers were wind, dryness, and arithmetic. A body on that steppe burned 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day just to hold 37 degrees. You cannot shiver your way out of a number like that. You have to build your way out. They built 4 things, and you are still using all 4. Start with skin, because skin is where the argument is lost. A naked human is comfortable down to about 27 degrees. January on the steppe went to -30 with wind. That gap is not something a body closes. It is something a body wears. A draped hide is not enough. Draped hide flaps, and moving air is what actually steals the heat off you. What works is fitted, layered, and sealed at the wrists and the neck. Layers do not warm you. Layers trap still air, and still air is the thing doing the work. And to sew a fitted garment, you need one specific object, a needle with a hole in it. The oldest-eyed needle we have comes from Denisova Cave in Siberia, and it is about 50,000 years old. Bird bone, a few centimeters long, with an eye drilled through one end by someone who had no metal. Neanderthals had hides and scrapers and fire for 300,000 years. What they do not seem to have had is the needle. The people who did got a base layer, an insulating layer, and a windproof shell, which is the same 3 layers currently sitting in your cupboard. Second build, heat that stays where you put it. There is one problem with fire on a grassland. There are no trees on a grassland, so they burned bone. Mammoth bone is greasy, and greasy bone burns long and slow once the fire is already hot. Then they built the house out of the rest of the animal. At Mezhyrich in Ukraine, archaeologists dug up 4 huts made of mammoth bone. One of them used 95 lower jaws stacked in a herringbone pattern, chin down. That is not a shelter thrown together in an afternoon. That is architecture, and someone drew it in their head first. They lit it with fat. A carved stone lamp from Lascaux burned animal fat with a juniper wick 17,000 years ago. And at Dolny Vestinitsi, 29,000 years ago, someone built a kiln. It fired clay at temperatures over 700 degrees. Not bowls, not jars, small animals, and a woman with no face. The first ceramics on Earth were not useful at all. Pottery you could actually cook in shows up about 9,000 years later. Third build, food that is mostly fat. This one sounds like a diet fad, and it is actually a hard limit. Lean meat cannot feed you. Push much past 1/3 of your calories as protein, and your liver cannot process it fast enough. Explorers who tried living on lean meat in the Arctic got weak, then sick with food still in the camp, so the prize was never the steak. The prize was marrow, brain, tongue, back fat, and the grease locked inside the bones. They smashed those bones into fragments and boiled them for hours to skim the grease off the top. The sites are full of bone splinters, broken small on purpose. Timing mattered as much as hunting. An autumn reindeer is fat. The same animal in March is a bag of bones that will not pay for the walk. And they had a freezer because the ground was one. Pits, dug into permafrost, holding meat through the winter. Your kitchen has an appliance that is 30,000 years old, and it is not the kettle. Fourth build, and the strangest one, other people. At Sungir in Russia, 2 children were buried about 34,000 years ago. Laid over them were roughly 10,000 beads carved from mammoth ivory. Each bead takes about an hour to make. Someone put years of work in the ground and walked away from it. Seashells turn up at camps hundreds of kilometers from any sea. Things were moving, which means people were meeting. And the same small carved figure, wide hips, no face, shows up from France to Russia. 2,000 kilometers of steppe, and one shared idea of what a sculpture is. What actually traveled that route was not shells and ivory. It was where the herd crosses in autumn and how you twist a thread and which valley has good flint. A group that talks to other groups keeps every good idea anyone has ever had. A group that does not has to invent fire twice. Now the part that gets left out. Mostly it did not work. At the coldest point, 26 to 19,000 years ago, the steppe emptied. People fell back into pockets in Spain, Italy, and the Balkans. Models put the fall in Europe's population at more than half. In the genetics, whole lineages simply stop. This was not a survival montage. It was dark, it was hungry, and it went on for 1,000 human lifetimes. Everything you did in the first 10 seconds of this video, they had to invent. A sealed layer, a controlled fire, stored fat, and someone to ask. You still have all four. Yours just arrive. It is still cold in your room. Press the button and go back to bed.